Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark from the United States.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Mark from the States. How we doing today? I am doing fantastic. I hope you are as well. Thank you so much for coming. Come sit with me on this big fake couch today. We check back in and see what our good friends Kara and Jeremy are doing over at Magic GEEKDOM. It's their video on habits that they have now adopted since their journey and travels throughout England. Thank you for that suggestion there. Well, first of all, go support their channel. It's so important that you get over there and watch and like, subscribe, do the things that you guys do. It's go get lost on their channel. They've got a ton of videos. I know if you don't already know who they are and this is your first time hearing about them, go over there. You'll love it. I guarantee it. They are a ton of fun and they're just good humans. I've got to interview them. That's also on the channel. Look for it. The interview is great. They're just awesome. Well, they're back in the States now, and they've been here for a little while now. So they're just kind of going back and reminiscing about and realizing, apparently, that they've adopted a lot of habits that they've now incorporated into their life back here in the U.S. So I'm excited to see this video. And I'm sure you guys are going to dig it as well, just hearing their thoughts. But yeah, go over to their channel. Quickly, as we know, as I mentioned, 2 strikes is what I have right now. So if the worst happens, go on over to Patreon. I'm going to link that. You just go to patreon.com and then search for Mark from the States, and you should find me. That's if the worst case scenario happens. I have one of the strikes I think is coming off in 30 days, so in a month. This time next month it should be gone and back down to 1 strike. But here's the thing. These are videos that are over a year old, at least minimum, that are being striked. And so I'm like, gosh, man, you forget that I even did the video, and I don't know how YouTube works apparently very well. Here's the thing, and I just don't, I'm not making my living from YouTube, and so I'm just here to hang out with my friends, which is all of you. So hopefully, I'm sure we'll figure it out. But yeah, if it does happen, just know it'll go. I think they give you 7 days if it does, so I'll be able to tell you what the plan is. But yeah, it's just crazy that it's over a year. So what I'm trying to say is I'm going back and I'm removing old videos that frankly weren't that good anyway. Let's be honest. I've gotten a lot better as I've gotten more comfortable in front of the camera. So they're being moved. I started deleting them, but then someone mentioned, yeah, you should probably keep them. And I thought, oh, so what I'm doing is I'm just making them private so you can't see them. I don't know if that will change, if they're still able to block them, even if I have them as private and not on you, like live on YouTube anymore. Again, do not understand this YouTube thing still to this day. So go and check out those old videos before they get taken down. You know, I'm trying to get everybody's permission. Just doing videos of people who I've gotten their blessing from, and a lot I have. So I have a bunch of requests out, emails, waiting on responses on suggestions you guys have sent me. So hopefully those will come in and we can do other creators as well. And I didn't understand the reaction genre. So a lot of the older ones are from people I didn't get their permission, and that's on me. And I should have their permission. I've, like I said, some have said, no, I'd rather you didn't. And so that I'm totally fine with that. And I'll probably repeat this in another video just so we're all clear. But yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do. This is not my career, so I just want to hang out with all the people I love. So I want it all cool. And I've met so many just wonderful people from over where you live. So It's just been great. Such a blessing. But enough about that. Also Saturday I went to go see Wrexham and Bournemouth up in Santa Barbara. Had a lot of fun. I have a couple videos and more like videos, short little videos and photos. Not a ton, but I'll show them to you here in the next video or two. I'm not sure. I got to download the photos and all that business, but I'll show you some of that. And crazy thing is I'm going back to see Bournemouth play again. Like literally Saturday was my first ever professional soccer match. It was awesome. There were some celebrities there. Beautiful day. It was hot, but it was still a lot of fun. Not a ton. I think there was like 13,000 people, which I thought was crazy because the stadium's not very big, where they play at this college in Santa Barbara. Wednesday we're going to a bigger where the LA Galaxy play down in LA, and I'm seeing Bournemouth again. So they're playing Arsenal because that's why we're going, because Cooper's favorite team is Arsenal. So that should be a lot of fun. But who would have thought my first like professional soccer experience is going to be with Bournemouth? I would have never imagined that. So who knows? Maybe I'll become a Bournemouth fan since I've seen them and more than any other team. That'd be nutty. Anyway, I'll get some shots of our game on Wednesday as well. So anyway, let's get to the video. It's the things Magic Geekdom has adopted since moving back from their travels in England. Let's do it.
After spending 6 months in the UK last year and being home for about 6 months now from our travels throughout Europe, today we're going to talk about the specifically British habits that we've adopted, or at least I've adopted. I feel like mostly these are mine, but I don't know, you can chime in and let me know how you feel as we go through the list. And I should also say that not all of these are habits, but I think some of them are general like feelings and changes that I feel different about since we've been back.
Okay.
Number 10 is using an electric kettle. And I guess to add a layer to that is not microwaving my water. It's actually a funny story because when we first met, and when we first moved in together about 10 years ago, we were doing some shopping for things that we wanted to put in our house together. And Jeremy found an electric kettle and I felt very weird about it. I was like, why do we need that?
I just kind of wanted one. I mean, from watching British things, and there's an American chef, Alton Brown, who also recommended having one, and I was a big fan of his. And it was on clearance at the department store we were at, and it just seemed like something, I want to try having one of these. And yeah, you kind of made fun of me.
I did. I teased him a little bit. In my defense, the duration that we had that electric kettle, I didn't really use it very often. I would occasionally use it to boil water to make like my coffee, my French press. But I still had the tendency to microwave water for tea.
Oh my gosh, microwave. We have an electric kettle, so to speak. And we use it for our French press as well. So I get you, Jeremy. But we don't use it very often. In fact, I would maybe say I use it 4 times a year. My wife uses it a lot because she does drink a lot of tea, especially when she has like sore throat or something like that. She's making tea all the time.
Like all the time. Yeah.
Never microwaved.
And it wasn't until we were in the UK long term and I got so used to it. Every hotel has an electric kettle.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's weird because coming back here and staying in hotels, it's like, where's that electric kettle? I feel like it's something that until we were really immersed in the culture of the UK, I didn't really ever understand. I didn't get it, but now I do. And since we got our own place, I got a tea kettle for our stove and an electric kettle. Yeah, so we now have both options. No more microwaving water for me.
No.
I didn't know it was such a faux pas.
Just don't.
I'm also realizing that we took footage of the electric tea kettle section when we were shopping in Target, and there were only 2 total tea kettle options at our Target here in the US, whereas the coffee makers, there were about
Right.
50 different offerings. They're not completely uncommon, but you know, you can buy any number of 400 coffee makers or one of two options for tea kettles. I guess this kind of segues into drinking a lot more tea. Now, I've always been a fan of tea.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, since I kind of dabbled with it as a kid. When we were actually in the UK, I don't feel like I really immersed myself in the tea culture there. Like at a hotel, I would have it if they had it.
We did go to afternoon tea a few times.
We did, but I didn't really like have it every single day.
No.
Or really like dabble in the different kinds there were. And I feel like now that we've been back, I've really been experimenting. I've been buying a lot more Twinings, which is the main British brand that you can find in the US. And I've been enjoying it. I even bought a diffuser from a British lady at the local farmer's market. And I've been experimenting with different
Some loose teas.
Yeah, loose teas too. So I definitely feel like I've adopted that habit. I've gotten like more into it since we've been back, at least.
Well, and it's part of one of your favorite things there.
What?
Green tea.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love cream tea. It is one of my favorite things. So it feels appropriate that I've come home and been much more into tea than I used to be.
That's fair, yeah.
We recently, because we have really, the only brand I really remember trying there for sure is the Yorkshire tea.
Yeah.
And so we
I have that in
recently
my
asked
cupboard.
our viewers, we asked you guys what your favorite brand of tea was, and we got
Thanks
a lot
to
of
one
great
of you.
responses. We are trying to still collect them. We've got quite a few teas to try, so look out for
Me
that
too.
video soon.
Yeah, I have that in my cupboard. One of you sent that to me. Thank you so much. You know who you are. My wife drinks it. I'm not a tea guy. I literally do not like it. I don't know why. I tried it. It just not my cuppa. Right?
Yeah, I think this is
Coffee.
a both of us.
Coffee.
This is not
Okay.
just a me habit. This is
Sure.
a both of us, and that is watching more British television.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were both
All
fans
for that. All for
of
it.
certain things before we went.
Yeah.
I got you into Doctor Who. I grew up around my dad that watched a lot of British comedies as a kid, so I watched Mr. Bean and Red Dwarf and stuff like that. But I think things like the game shows and the panel shows and stuff
Yeah.
like that, I had not really
Panel shows.
seen until we went there.
Yeah, it's funny because I can remember the first video that we made on our first trip to the UK. We came back to the US and we made a video called Things We Love About the UK. And I remember one of the things that we fell in love with on our first trip was like British game shows and panel shows. They're so fun. They're so enjoyable. They're funnier. There's always
Is that the lying
comedians
show?
involved in them.
Why would I
we don't,
lie
We
or
don't
something
do
like
game
that?
shows like that where like a comedian is on the panel like that, you know? Since we've been back, we've just been watching whatever we can find. Like
Yeah,
episodes
that's fair.
of Pointless or, oh yeah, we watched Johnny Marr on one of those, the
Would I Lie
lying
to You?
one. Yeah, Would I Lie to You? And that was enjoyable.
Would I Lie to You?
Yeah, I just feel like whatever we can get our hands on, we like to watch. I think that Bargain Hunt, I think that's what it's called, the one where they go and they try to like thrift something and then they auction it and see who gets
Yeah.
a better price on it.
Oh.
There's just so many British shows that while we were there, I feel like we really immersed
sounds
ourselves
cool.
in, and I very much enjoy them.
The House of Games, the Richard Osman one.
Oh,
He's like the co-host on Pointless.
Yes.
Oh, and Taskmaster.
Yes. Oh, that's a great point. If you are American and you haven't really ever watched a lot of British TV, I think Taskmaster is a great place to start.
Yeah, it's a good entry point.
It's a good entry point. Not only is it a very enjoyable, funny show, but it's available on YouTube, so you can easily
Yeah.
watch it in the US, where like a lot of the other ones, it's like, how do we find this?
So like
Right.
use a VPN or just
Yeah.
like you find
Taskmaster.
clips on YouTube or something, but there's
I'm gonna have to check that
full
out.
episodes.
Thanks
that
for
they
the
actually put
suggestion.
up on
Alright.
YouTube, which is great.
Yep, I agree. Taskmaster is great. We got tickets to see Greg Davis in
Spring.
in the UK next spring. So hopefully we'll be back for that. I don't know, we haven't made any plans.
You heard that
but
live on our
I
interview.
bought tickets, so maybe we'll be there. So yes, we have definitely been enjoying some British television,
Yeah.
even as far as we've gone back and been watching some older Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's something about British television that is more enjoyable to me. And I think especially coming back, I have been avoiding the American news cycle completely
Lucky
as
you.
part of kind of what we've been choosing to watch on TV. And it's just been a much more sane experience.
Right. Lucky you.
There's
Good
some
job.
things I still gotta get you into.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. If you guys have any recommendations for shows that we should check out, because Jeremy sounds like he has a list of things, but maybe you have some classics that we should check out. Like, I think there's a few that people have told us about, like one that has like Del Boy. Is that a person?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
Only Fools and
Only Fools,
yes,
right.
Yes,
and
like
horses,
should we watch
yeah.
that? And should we start at the
knew
beginning?
that name
Is
sounded
it worth
familiar.
watching now? I don't know. There's all these classic shows that I've never seen, and I'm not sure where we should start. We also met a couple who watches our channel last year when we were in Lincoln, and they recommended that we visit Holmfirth in Yorkshire. Told us that it was a filming location of Last of the Summer Roses, and that maybe we should also watch the show. And I had never heard of it until they had recommended it, and we still have not watched it, but I guess it's a long-running comedy on the BBC, so should we watch it? Should we check it out? Let us know. I want to take a second to thank our patrons for supporting our channel and thank our subscribers. We've had a lot of recent subscribers recently and a couple new Patreon
That's awesome.
members, so thank you all for being a part of the channel, being a part of the community. And if you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It really does help us out.
And you can see more videos.
Yeah.
They'll send them to you.
They'll show them. They'll suggest them.
Suggest.
They'll put them in front of you.
YouTube's like, hello, Peter. Here's the one we think you will like. The next couple are primarily me, because I'm the one that did driving in the UK. I'm the driver here. Roundabout etiquette. So we do have roundabouts in the US.
They're becoming more common.
They're more common.
They are.
They're still not as nearly as common as.
And you don't really see them in the big cities, at least I know of. You see them in these smaller sized towns and cities where it just keeps the road, traffic flowing, where you don't need a stop sign. You're starting to see more of these, especially in neighborhoods. It seems a lot of the new neighborhoods, like where homes are, instead of having stop signs every time you come to a cross street, it's just a roundabout. It's very popular
in the UK, but I have noticed that since we've gotten back, I use my turn signal or my turn indicator a lot more than I just don't think it's standard practice. And driving in the States is a unique thing because every state has different laws and regulations and things, so it kind of depends on the state that you're in. But I have noticed that I will definitely use my indicator when I am exiting a roundabout to let people know which direction I'm going, and that is a thing I never used to do. I also think it's more common in the UK to kind of use your left turn signal or your right turn signal to kind of, as you're going into the intersection or the roundabout, to tell people where you are going. I think that would confuse people here. I don't know if Americans would understand what I'm doing if I use my left turn signal in a roundabout, but I do use it to let people know which lane I'm getting out of or which road I'm turning off on. And that is something I never did before, ever. I guess to kind of tack on to that, I'm also gonna say driving etiquette. I've developed better driving habits from our experience in the UK. And also I've learned that I have some frustrations with American driving etiquette since returning to the UK. So it's kind of like a dual thing.
My wife cannot stand American drivers. And she's never driven anywhere. Well, she drove in Costa Rica, but she's constantly yelling at people. God bless her.
But on freeways or motorways in the UK, it is, I think it's a law. I don't think you're supposed to pass, or I guess it's called undertake. You're not supposed to use the lane, the slowest lane, to pass a vehicle, and people do that in the US.
Yes,
and it's
all the time.
And usually they're going 90 miles an hour when they do it, and
it's not smart.
It's not great. And
And not legal, actually.
Yeah. Every time we've been to the UK, I mean, there are a few exceptions, but overall, generally speaking, you pass the vehicle that you need to, and then you get back over. And a lot of times, people will just drive in the fast lane for the bulk of the duration, and then you have people undertaking them and going around them. And I feel like I used to be someone who would just drive down the fastest lane, and I would get over if someone came up behind me, but I would just drive down it, just like, I'm driving in this lane. And now I don't ever do that. I almost immediately get over every time. It's just become a habit for me to pass the vehicle I'm passing and then get back over, which is interesting. I mean, I don't love the driving etiquette here. I don't know of any state that you'll actually get pulled over for passing incorrectly.
Yeah, I don't think it's...
Very rare.
I think it is illegal pretty much everywhere, but I don't see that they pull you over just for that usually.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing is speeding. I used to speed a lot more than I do now. And I think that's because in the UK, there are speed cameras everywhere. And so
they're harsher on you about it.
Yeah, you don't really see police, like speed traps waiting to pull you over.
You just get a ticket in the mail.
Yeah, so, but you really have to go the speed limit everywhere, where it's like here, it's because it's like up to the police officer who sees you, generally. It's up to the person that would be giving you a ticket to give you a ticket. So I think it's a little more like loose here, where going 5 miles over the speed limit is a standard thing. I think what's interesting is I just in general feel like I used to get more aggressive while driving. Like I would get frustrated at someone and like undertake them or something. And now that we've spent a lot of time in the UK, I just feel so much more chill about driving.
Perfect example. You can turn right on a red light here in the US, where you cannot do that in the UK. No red on red. And shortly after we got back from the UK, I was in a lane turning right, and it was by my parents' house. It's in an area I grew up, and I was going to make a right-hand turn, and there was a red light, and I just sat there and patiently waited for it to turn green, and people behind me started honking at me, and I was just like, you know what? I just don't even want to turn yet. I'm so chill now. I just don't even want to turn on a red light, and I feel like that made me very much feel like I have a much more chill attitude about driving than I did before.
I do tend to talk a lot on this channel about how intimidating the narrow roads in the UK can be, but I do have to give credit to the motorways because it is so much more of a pleasurable experience to drive on the motorways, and I think people are just a little bit more courteous on the roads, which I feel like I've adopted. Number 4 is I feel like a very controversial one.
Okay.
And that is using a knife and fork. I said that right? Yeah, that's the proper way to say it. If you say it the other way around, I guess it sounds like you could be swearing. As Americans, we eat with our forks. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if I want to use a knife, I will put my fork in my left hand, and use my knife in my right hand and cut what I need to, and then switch those back. I had no idea that we ate so differently, that our meal etiquette was so different in the US until we went to the UK, and we've had so many people tell us how we eat weird. And it makes sense, I get it. As Americans, like, this is what we're used to. This is the way that we do it. And I feel like going there and being there more often, though, I definitely have adopted using my
knife and fork.
Yeah.
More correctly?
More, exactly. I use it a lot more. I think people still sometimes tell us about how we use it weird because I'll still use the fork like a spoon instead of like stabbing it and using it with like the tong, like, I don't know, what I would consider tines upside down. The tongs. Tines. But yes, I have. I mean, I think you have too, right? Like, you use it a lot more.
I don't know.
I think so.
Okay.
I think we still.
I believe you.
I think we still eat American sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially because like last night we went to a restaurant and I don't even know if they gave us a knife, or maybe just what we were eating didn't require a knife.
No, they
but
had knives.
Oh, I just didn't use it then.
It's just like a butter knife.
Yeah, but a lot of times that's what happens. Like you'll go to a restaurant and they'll just give you a fork.
Yeah.
And that's how we eat. That's what we do. But I do feel like I eat less like an American, although probably still use a little bit like an American. I've definitely adopted the habit of using a knife a lot more than I ever did before.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily as much of a habit. It's just more something I guess it's a habit. I've been doing it a lot more. And that is being more conscientious about what is in food. And I guess like checking labels more and everything.
Just they can get away with a lot more stuff here than they
Totally.
can in the UK.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, we could make a whole video about this because you guys have let us know a lot of things about differences and things that are banned and, just
chemicals that you can't use.
Differences in our food supply. And it is quite alarming. And I think probably a lot of you telling us about things is probably how we've become more conscious about it. And also partly because we go to M&S or Tesco and look at something and it's like, oh, this has 4 ingredients in it. And then you get home and you're like, oh, this same thing has 12 ingredients and I don't recognize the names of 11 of them. Yes. We bought Worcestershire sauce for a video and I ended up looking up our American Worcestershire sauce versus, I just went on Tesco's website, found one, and looked at the ingredients, and it's like everything in the Tesco one is onion and malt vinegar, and ours is like, I don't even know, but it was like, oh, these
citric
are
acid.
not the same.
Yeah.
I don't know how our gravy with Worcestershire sauce is gonna turn out, but it's definitely made me look at labels a lot more. I've gotten much more into the habit of that, and it's kind of alarming. I mean, for example, we were looking for a recipe for sausage for, I guess it was kind of like keto adjacent recipe. And I was trying to find sausage that didn't have sugar in it. And I couldn't find a single sausage at the grocery store that didn't have sugar in it. And I just thought, that's so strange. It's so strange. We've ended up spending a lot more time at our local farmers market and buying a lot more things from there just because not only are we supporting a local business, but it's like, oh, these are more natural things.
Yeah.
They're not going to be using some weird ingredient I've never heard of. Do you have anything else about that?
Seen people from the UK refer to our bread as cake for a similar reason because it has sugar in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your bread is different and better.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I think we've also had a lot of people in the UK tell us that bread and or Europeans even in general tell us that breads in other places in Europe are better than the UK. And I think while that is probably true in a lot of cases, they're all still way better than
ours.
Most of them that you can find in the US. There is a local company back in the area I'm from called Dave's Killer Bread that makes exceptionally great bread, and I would trust.
I've seen that.
I don't know that I've ever actually had their white bread, but I would trust that their white bread is probably not
still
cake.
better,
Yeah.
Well, along the same lines, we have bought bread from like our farmers market recently, and it is just a world of difference.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that bread was so good.
Yeah, it was really good.
It tasted like European bread. I was like, are we in Germany right now? This bread is so good. I said not using AC, air conditioning, aircon, whatever you prefer to call it. I just never even thought about it before. I mean, we were in the South. In Florida, you kind of need it. It's like swampy and gross. And I would just leave it on all the time.
Yeah, especially during the summer.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until we went to the UK and I mean, it was the first time we were there in summer. We were there all summer long. There was a heat wave during that time frame. And I think just us having the windows open, we were like, this is so hot. And we had a lot of our viewers tell us, yeah, but aircon is so bad for the environment. Why would you need it for the, 2 weeks of the year that we have this extreme heat? And it's like, wow, that's a great point. Mm-hmm. We've had people tell us that houses are built in the UK to keep heat in. And so that's why, I mean, we had an extreme sweltering couple weeks when we were in Cheltenham. It was truly like probably the most miserable of our time there. But then at the same time, like we understood. I get
Yeah.
it. It's like I understand now.
Since we got back from the UK and Europe, we got a place in Arizona, which
Can get
is
hot.
pretty warm in general, but the area we're in is a little cooler, and we really haven't
that's
been using
awesome.
the air conditioner until the last couple weeks where it's been pretty warm again.
It was in the 80s, and we had just the doors open, and we were letting a breeze happen. And I feel
It's
like,
pleasant.
yeah, it was pleasant. And it wasn't until it got into the upper 90s that we decided we should turn our AC on.
Turn the AC on.
And here's the thing, yeah, we don't have air conditioning in my house either. We're on the beach, not literally on the beach, but in a beach town. And so we get ocean breeze a lot, but it does maybe a handful of weeks out of the whole year, you'll get it to where it's really warm. So those are the days you're like, God, I wish I had air conditioning. But, a couple fans, door open, generally will cool you off enough to where it's, no problem. Most of the time it's 68 to 74 in between there all year round. So, and that's Fahrenheit, of course. So yeah, I can see why. But in Arizona, it does get a little warmer. They're in the desert, but they do look like they're, where they're at is a little more, it's not just a flat desert, so they probably have a different little climate down there, but it looks awesome though.
If we had been in this situation before going to the UK like we did, I think we would have turned the
Probably
AC
would've.
on day one.
Yeah.
Because we
very
just wouldn't have
possible.
thought about it.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that at the time, in those 2 weeks of extreme heat, I was like, oh, why is it so hot in here? But I feel like it definitely taught me a lesson of we don't need our aircon as much as I think we do. And I mean, in our current situation,
Yeah.
I think in the South, it's a little bit different of a story because it gets pretty hot and humid.
Yeah.
But it gets pretty humid in the UK too, as we learned. So good on you guys for enduring those extreme summer temperatures, because they're not fun.
No, they're not. They can be pretty nasty.
To tack onto that, I said being more environmentally conscious in general. I feel that before we spent a lot of time in Europe, that I felt pretty environmentally conscious.
Yeah, I think in terms of Americans, we both probably were fairly.
Yeah, and then you go to Europe and you're like, oh wow, we are really not as environmentally conscious as we even think we are.
Yeah.
The area I'm from, they have a plastic bag ban. So there are situations where there are steps being taken,
Yeah.
but I think we still are kind of further behind the rest of
Yeah, no, I
the
would
world.
agree.
The
Yeah.
world, yeah,
in
absolutely.
terms of that.
We're definitely
but
ahead
I think
of
that's
China,
one
though.
thing that since we've been
So-
back, I've really tried to be more conscious about that. I mean, I think about even just like the plastic bags. Like in the US, we just have these flimsy plastic bags that are like you use them one time and you throw them away, and like, oh, I really don't like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK,
I actually keep all mine. We rarely throw them away unless I have to put food in them, tie them up, then we throw them away. Or I clean the litter box with them, all the bags I get from the grocery store. That sort of thing. If you got to wrap something, I can use the bags to wrap for before you put it in a box kind of a thing, packaging. So we do have uses, and I know they do as well, but it is funny because they did even here in Ventura, they had a plastic ban in the state of California, plastic bag. And for whatever reason, the grocery stores are still allowed to charge. It's not so much a ban. Now they just charge you for the bag. It's like, okay, you're charging us to use the plastic. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, we need to kind of clarify that we are definitely behind the rest of the world, except like I mentioned, China and India, and there's a bunch of others. We're pretty clean as a country, I think, as on a whole, but I think obviously we could do better in certain things for sure. Yeah, I don't want to get any further on that topic because it'll take me over a different path that I don't want to go right now.
You pay for it.
And it's either a very reusable bag or at least a higher quality plastic one that you can still reuse.
And we
Yeah.
actually even had people tell us that you can go and trade them back in.
Yeah, like Sainsbury and
Yeah. But the
Tesco or things like that.
yeah, the Waitrose bag that we got is such a nice durable bag.
Yeah.
Like we still
no,
use
you
that
use
bag.
that
I mean,
one,
we
yeah.
still have most of them that we got in the UK. And they're so much better quality. You can tell that they were meant to be used more than once, and I think that kind of speaks to the just like the single plastic use in general. Like when we went and got McFlurries at McDonald's, they had a wooden spoon and we were like, oh, this is weird, this is different. And you guys told us, no, we used to have those plastic spoons too. We got rid of them because we are trying not to use single
So much
plastics.
plastic, yeah.
And it's like, that makes sense. We should probably do that too. But
Probably.
do you think McDonald's in the US will?
No, probably
No.
not.
Not probably. No, not
At least
any-
not anytime soon.
anytime
No,
soon.
Sadly.
Yeah. But it's made me, I think, kind of, take a step back. Like we went to a gas station and we were gonna get drinks. And it's like, they're still using styrofoam.
In some,
which,
yeah.
It's more of a southern thing. Like, I don't think the North really does it as much, but
Not as much.
we still use styrofoam, which is like not only bad for the environment, but I think it can cause cancer. Like it's cancerous, and we're still
Potentially, yeah.
putting drinks in it all the time. It's just I feel much more aware of those things now that we're back. Spending time in the UK and Europe, it's been kind of eye-opening to recognize like the things that we don't do as well in the US and the ways that we should change our own habits.
That makes sense.
I also said, apparently I put 2 number ones.
Funny story. There are 2 number ones because I actually made my whole list askew, and number 10 was listed as number 9. So there were 2 number ones, but it's because the second number 1 was actually number 2.
I think it kind of ties into everything we've been talking about, and that's just kind of being a more considerate human. I
Wow.
think that, and not to say that people in the US aren't considerate people, but I think that there is just culturally a mentality of like, I look out for myself and I take care of myself, where I think that is not as much the case in the UK. I mean, other countries as
Yeah.
well. But I mean, you look at things like healthcare and like the tipping culture of the US, and I think it's made me realize like, oh, I want to be a more considerate human that looks out for other people and isn't just as concerned with myself. Not that I thought that I ever was like that. I just feel like,
Completely self-centered or
I just
whatever,
feel
but-
like it made me recognize that as a culture, that's kind of how we are. As I was planning this video and really thinking of, what habits and feelings and like what of the British culture have I really adopted and feel like I want to make it my own. And I think some things like game shows I really, really like. And then there are just, other things of feeling like I want to be more conscious about the environment or the food that is in the supermarket. And so it's been a very, interesting introspection for me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video as well. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe, please. It definitely does help us out. Thank you to our patrons for supporting our channel. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon member, there is a link below. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch the video when we first got back from our very first UK trip, talking about the things that we love about the UK, because I think that's a pretty interesting video, and maybe some of you newer people have not seen it yet. Go check it out. It'll be right here. Yeah, right here. We'll see you over there.
I love them. Interesting thoughts on how it's made them change just the way they look. They did spend a lot of time in England, and it's interesting to hear how the way they look at America, how it's changed the way they look at America. A lot of those are valid points. Environment, just being better humans, yes. America does have that looking out for number one, its own self, kind of mentality, I would imagine. But it's not always the case, of course. There's many of us who like to think that we care about others as well. Maybe we're just thinking that we do and we don't really. I guess I should live in England for a while and really kind of get that taste to see what she is actually saying is true. I love them both. They're good people, so I believe them. So, what do you guys think? I hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe. Thanks so much for coming. Go support. I don't even know if I said this at the beginning. Go support their channel. It's so important that you do. Links will be in the description, right? But go support them. They're wonderful, and they went so many cool places. If you don't already know about them, go do it. You will not be sorry. And yeah, interesting video. It's just a different, just kind of, it wasn't where I was going. It started off with the kettle. I was thinking, okay, yeah, I kind of see where, but it definitely went to a more deeper, meaningful kind of a place. And I thought that was kind of neat. So good for them. Jeremy, Kara, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Say hi to Carly for me. That's their dog, in case you're wondering. And we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.
Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark.